The steak had gone cold again. I stood in our apartment kitchen, staring at two plates that had been ready almost an hour ago. The candle had burned so low that wax dripped across the table like slow tears. My phone lit up. Olivia, running late. Don't wait for me. That was all. No heart, no apology. Just another message that looked more like a reminder from work than something sent to the man who loved her. I laughed under my breath. Not because it was funny, because if I didn't laugh, I might finally admit how much it hurt. 3 years together. 3 years of canceled dates. 3 years of waiting beside cold dinners. 3 years of telling everyone she was just busy. Every excuse sounded weaker than the last. I picked up my fork, took one bite, and put it back down. Eating alone had become a habit. Waiting had become my personality. My phone still showed dozens of messages I had sent over the past few weeks. Drive safely. Good luck with your meeting. Dinner's ready. Hope your presentation went well. Most of them still showed delivered. Not even opened. I locked the screen. Maybe unread messages hurt more than harsh words. At least harsh words meant someone had listened. The company celebration filled the hotel ballroom with music, bright lights, and expensive smiles. Olivia belonged here. She moved through the crowd with effortless confidence, greeting investors, shaking hands, remembering every important name. Everyone admired her. The Ice Queen. That nickname followed her everywhere. Cold, perfect, untouchable. The strange part? They admired those qualities. I stood near the back with a glass of sparkling water, watching her accept another round of congratulations. She looked beautiful. She always did. Part of me still believed she would eventually look across the room, smile, and wave me over. She didn't. Nathan Brooks stepped beside her instead. He laughed at something she whispered. She smiled. Not the polite smile she gave strangers. A real one. Small. Warm. The kind I hadn't seen directed at me in months. Someone beside me nudged my shoulder. You must be proud. I forced a smile. I am. The answer came automatically. Like breathing. Like lying. An hour later, the company's director walked onto the stage. We wouldn't be here without Olivia Hayes. Applause exploded across the ballroom. She accepted the award gracefully. Then the director smiled. And of course, Nathan Brooks, whose partnership helped make all this possible. Nathan joined her. More applause. Pictures. Cheers. My seat stayed empty beside me. No one asked who I was. No one introduced me as the man waiting at home. I wasn't even forgotten. I simply wasn't part of the story. The event finally ended. People surrounded Olivia. Phones flashed. Champagne glasses touched. I waited near the exit. She eventually reached me, slipping her heels back on after carrying them in one hand. Oh, she blinked. I forgot you were still here. The words landed harder than any insult. She noticed my face. What? Nothing. You look upset. I'm tired. You've been quiet all night. A dozen answers rushed through my head. Because you never looked at me. Because you smile more at strangers than me. Because I don't remember the last time we actually ate dinner together. Instead, I smiled. It's okay. She nodded, already checking another email. I need to answer this. Of course you do. The drive home felt longer than usual. Rain tapped softly against the windshield. Olivia answered 2 work calls before we reached the apartment. By the time we walked inside, she headed straight for her laptop. The cold dinner still waited exactly where I had left it. She noticed the plates. Oh, you cooked. I did. You should have eaten. I tried. She rubbed her forehead. I'm exhausted. I know. She reached for my hand. The gesture surprised me. Before our fingers touched, her phone rang again. She apologized with a quick smile. 1 minute. The call lasted 32. Near midnight, she finally closed the laptop. I'm going to bed. I stayed at the table. The candles had gone out hours ago. The food had become impossible to recognize. She stopped halfway to the bedroom. Aren't you coming? In a little while. Don't stay up too late. Then she disappeared behind the bedroom door. The apartment became painfully quiet. I stared at the untouched plate in front of her. It looked exactly like our relationship. Prepared with love. Left untouched. The next morning arrived too quickly. Olivia rushed through breakfast without taking more than 2 bites of toast. I'll be home early. You've said that before. She paused. I mean it this time. I hope so. She kissed my cheek. It felt rushed, like checking something off a list. Then she hurried toward the front door. Her phone buzzed again. She looked down while walking. Olivia. She lifted one finger without looking up. I know. Another step. Another glance at the screen. My stomach tightened. Watch. The warning came too late. Her foot missed the last apartment stair. A sharp cry echoed through the hallway. The phone flew from her hand. She tumbled down several steps before landing hard against the wall. Everything inside me froze. Olivia. I reached her in seconds. Her eyes stayed closed. Blood trickled from a cut above her eyebrow. My hand shook as I called for help. Stay with me. Please. Please don't leave like this. The hospital smelled of disinfectant and sleepless nights. Doctors rushed her through scans. Hours crawled by. One specialist finally approached me. The good news is there's no major brain injury. I let out the breath I had been holding, but my heart sank again. She's experiencing unusual neurological responses. We'd like to keep her under observation. What does that mean? We're not entirely sure yet. That evening, Olivia slowly opened her eyes. Relief washed over me. You scare me. She blinked several times. Ethan, I'm right here. A faint smile appeared. Then her expression changed. Completely. Her face drained of color. She stared at me as if I had suddenly become someone else. What? She didn't answer. Instead, she grabbed the blanket tightly. I frowned. Olivia. Her breathing became uneven. The confusion in her eyes looked almost frightened. Then she whispered something that made every hair on my arms stand up. Already planning how to leave you. I frowned. What? She kept staring. Those weren't her words. They were mine. The sentence had never left my mouth. Only my mind. Only seconds earlier, while standing beside her bed, I had silently admitted the truth I had been too afraid to speak. I'm already planning how to leave you. Olivia's lips trembled. I heard you. My pulse hammered in my ears. Heard what? She couldn't answer. Neither of us understood that the impossible had already begun. What do you mean you heard it? The question stayed between us while the heart monitor kept its steady rhythm. Olivia held the blanket with both hands. Her fingers refused to relax. I don't know. You repeated something I never said. I know. The room suddenly felt too small. She searched my face as if expecting another invisible voice to appear. I just heard it. A nurse stepped inside before either of us could continue. Time for another check. Olivia nodded without taking her eyes off me. Something had changed. I couldn't explain it. Neither could she. Dr. Amelia Ross spent most of the morning running more tests. Blood work, brain scans, memory checks. Each result looked normal. It doesn't make sense. The doctor folded her chart. Physically, you're recovering very well. Then why does everything feel strange? We'll continue observing you. Not exactly comforting. When the doctor left, Olivia glanced toward me again. I smiled. You're going to be okay. The moment the thought crossed my mind, another one quietly followed. Even if we aren't. Olivia flinched. Her breathing caught for a second. You're doing it again. Doing what? Hiding behind a smile. A chill ran through me. How could you know that? She opened her mouth. Nothing came out, because she couldn't tell me the truth without sounding impossible. She came home 3 days later. The apartment looked exactly as we had left it. The cold dinner was gone. I had thrown it away before the ambulance arrived. Still, the empty places on the table somehow hurt more than the food ever had. Olivia stood in the kitchen. This feels different. It does. She reached toward my hand. Halfway there, she stopped. Her expression tightened. Another thought had reached her. She only reaches for me after almost losing me. She slowly pulled her hand back. What's wrong? Nothing. That single word sounded heavier than ever. The next morning surprised me. Breakfast was already waiting. Coffee, eggs, toast. Olivia almost never cooked. You made this. A small nod. I wanted to. It smells good. She watched me eat instead of touching her own plate. Every few seconds her expression shifted. Confusion, guilt, sadness, as if she were listening to something only she could hear. She remembered breakfast today. I wish I didn't feel surprised. The fork slipped from her fingers. You're surprised because... She stopped herself. I frowned. Because what? Nothing. She stood so quickly that the chair scraped across the floor. I have work. She left without eating. The strange moments kept happening. Every time I thought something painful, Olivia reacted before I spoke. Sometimes her smile disappeared. Sometimes tears gathered without warning. Sometimes she simply stared at me. One evening, I caught her watching while I folded laundry. What? You always fold mine too? Of course. Even when you're angry? I shrugged. I've never wanted you to have one more problem. She turned away, so quickly I barely saw her wipe her eyes. Grace noticed the change before anyone else. She invited me for lunch after work. The restaurant overlooked the river. Normally, the view relaxed me. Today, it only reminded me how tired I felt. She studied my face for almost a minute. You've lost weight. I've been busy. No. Her voice stayed calm. You've been disappearing. I forced a laugh. I'm still here. That isn't what I mean. She leaned forward. Are you living? Or just surviving? The question refused to leave my mind. I love her. I know. But does she know how to love you? I looked out the window. Boats drifted slowly across the water. I keep thinking things will change. Grace rested her hand over mine. Hope isn't supposed to hurt forever. Back home, Olivia stood in the living room. You were with Grace. Yeah. She cares about you. She does. Her lips parted. Then she froze. Another thought had reached her. Grace notices me more than my own girlfriend does. Olivia closed her eyes. The pain on her face looked real. Still, she never explained why. Instead, she picked up my coat. I washed this. You didn't have to. I wanted to. She had started doing little things. Making coffee, cooking breakfast, cleaning, waiting for me after work. Months ago, I would have celebrated those moments. Now they only confused me, because none of them answered the question I couldn't stop asking. Why now? Nathan called the following afternoon. Coffee. I almost refused. Curiosity won. He arrived wearing his usual relaxed smile. You look exhausted. It's been a strange week. I noticed. He stirred his drink without looking at me. Can I ask something? Go ahead. Are you and Olivia okay? I laughed quietly. Do we look okay? No. He let the silence settle before speaking again. You think there's something between us. The words landed harder than expected. I never accused you. You didn't need to. You met my eyes. There never has been. I didn't answer. You know what her biggest problem is? What? She keeps believing there will always be another chance. He sighed. She cares more than she knows how to show. Funny way of showing it. I've told her that. He pushed his coffee aside. She refuses to admit what she's afraid of. What is she afraid of? Needing someone. He stood. One more thing. I waited. If you leave, don't blame me. I won't. I've spent years watching both of you. His smile faded. She'll only understand your value when she can't reach you anymore. Then he walked away. That night I opened my phone. My thumb hovered over Olivia's contact. I started typing. We need to talk. Then I erased it. Typed again. Maybe we should take a break. Deleted. Another attempt. I'm tired. Gone. The screen became blank once more. Some conversations couldn't begin through a phone. I locked it and slipped it into my pocket. The suitcase had stayed under our bed for 2 days. Hidden. Waiting. Every evening I packed another shirt. Another book. Another piece of my life. Not enough for Olivia to notice. Enough for me to prepare. The apartment felt smaller every night. She tried harder every day. She invited me to dinner. Suggested movies. Asked about work. But every effort carried panic instead of warmth. Like someone trying to stop water after the dam had already cracked. Near midnight, she found me sitting on the balcony. The city lights stretched across the darkness. You're thinking again. I smiled faintly. I've always thought too much. No. Her voice almost broke. You've thought alone for too long. The sentence surprised me. Where did that come from? She looked down at her hands. I just know. I wanted to ask more. Instead, I watched the lights below. I don't hate you. Olivia's shoulders trembled. That's what makes leaving so hard. She pressed both hands against her ears, even though no sound existed. The following evening, I waited until she entered the shower. I pulled the suitcase from beneath the bed. The zipper sounded impossibly loud. Shirts, jeans, passport, family photos. My hands moved carefully. Every folded shirt felt like another goodbye. Then one final thought crossed my mind. Tomorrow, I'll be gone. Before I could reach for the suitcase handle, the bathroom door burst open. Olivia stood there, hair still wet, breathing hard. She rushed across the room and planted herself in front of the apartment door. No! Her voice shook. You're not leaving. I hadn't spoken a single word. You're not leaving. Olivia stood in front of the apartment door, barefoot, her hair still dripping onto the floor. The suitcase rested beside my leg. Neither of us moved. You knew. Her lips trembled. I just knew. That isn't possible. I know. Then tell me how. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Whatever had happened after the accident had trapped her inside a truth she couldn't explain. Another long moment passed. I can't. My hand settled on the suitcase handle. You've been stopping me before I even speak. Her breathing grew uneven. You're imagining things. No. The answer came quietly. I've imagined this relationship being healthy for 3 years. I'm done imagining. She stepped closer. Don't go tonight. Why? Because we need to talk. We had 3 years to talk. Her eyes closed for a second. I know. You always had another meeting. I know. Another deadline. I know. Another promise that tomorrow would be different. Each sentence landed harder than the last. She didn't argue. She couldn't. Morning arrived without sleep. The suitcase stayed packed. So did my decision. Olivia waited in the kitchen with 2 cups of coffee. I made your favorite. Thank you. She smiled hopefully. The smile disappeared when I carried my suitcase into the living room. You're serious? Yes. You'll come back after work? No. The cup slipped from her hand. Coffee spread across the floor. She didn't even notice. You can't just walk away. I didn't. Confusion crossed her face. I stayed. My voice remained calm. I stayed through forgotten birthdays. I stayed through canceled vacations. I stayed through empty dinners. I stayed when every part of me wanted to leave. Another step toward the door. This is the first time I'm actually walking away. She reached for my wrist. Her fingers barely touched my sleeve. The strange connection returned. Please don't make this harder. Her eyes widened. She had heard it. If you cry now, I'll almost change my mind. She let go immediately. Not because she wanted to, because she finally understood how close I was to breaking. I picked up my apartment key. For a second it rested in my palm. 3 years. Thousands of memories. Countless chances. The metal felt surprisingly light. I placed it gently on the kitchen counter. I hope you find what you've been chasing. Then I left. The first night alone felt strange. The apartment Daniel had helped me rent was small. Plain walls. 1 bedroom. A tiny kitchen. No expensive furniture. No fancy view. Still, it felt peaceful. No waiting. No checking the clock. No wondering if dinner would grow cold again. My phone buzzed once. Olivia. I watched the screen until it went dark. No voicemail. No message. Just my name appearing in her recent calls. Daniel Foster welcomed me into his office the following Monday. He shook my hand with a firm smile. Nervous? A little. Good. That answer surprised me. He laughed. Nervous people still care. He showed me around the company. Unlike my old workplace, people greeted each other by name. Someone offered coffee. Another person asked about my weekend. Small things. Simple things. Yet they reminded me how long it had been since I felt noticed. Lunch arrived faster than expected. Daniel sat across from me. You've got talent. I appreciate that. You also apologize too much. I blinked. What? You apologize every time you ask a question. I hadn't even realized. Years of trying not to become a burden had turned into habit. He smiled. Take up space, Ethan. Those 3 words stayed with me all day. Back at Olivia's office, life was changing too. I learned that weeks later. Nathan stopped by my new workplace one afternoon. You look different. In a good way. You're standing straighter. He smiled. She isn't. I stayed quiet. She missed 2 meetings this week. That doesn't sound like her. No. He looked toward the window. She keeps making mistakes. I remembered the woman who never forgot a single detail. What happened? Nathan gave a tired laugh. She finally noticed what she ignored. He hesitated before continuing. I confronted her. What did you say? The truth. He folded his arms. I told her love isn't something you schedule between meetings. A small silence settled between us. I also told her something else. I waited. You don't lose people the day they leave. His expression turned serious. You lose them every day they feel alone. That evening I walked through a nearby park. Children laughed on the swings. A couple shared ice cream. An old man fed birds near the fountain. Life kept moving. It always had. The only person standing still had been me. My phone buzzed again. Another missed call. Another message. Can we talk? I stared at it. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. Then I locked the screen. Not out of anger. Out of peace. Days slowly turned into weeks. My mornings belonged to me. Coffee before sunrise. A short walk. Work I enjoyed. Evenings without waiting beside untouched food. The strange emptiness inside me slowly made room for something else. Confidence. Not loud. Not dramatic. Quiet. Steady. Real. One afternoon, I stopped by a bookstore after work. A familiar voice froze me in place. Ethan. Olivia. She stood near the entrance holding two books she clearly hadn't noticed picking up. She looked thinner. Dark circles rested beneath her eyes. You look well. I've been doing okay. She nodded slowly. The invisible connection returned. I didn't know it. She did. I hope she's eating. Tears instantly filled her eyes. Not because the thought was cruel. Because it wasn't. After everything, I still cared. That hurt her more than anger ever could. You still worry about me. The words slipped from her lips before she could stop them. I frowned. How did you know that? She quickly looked away. I guessed. It wasn't convincing. Before I could question her further, she hurried toward the exit. Another week passed. Daniel called me into his office. I'd like you to lead the new client project. Already, you earned it. A grin spread across my face before I could hide it. Thank you. You don't need to thank me. He leaned back. Just keep becoming the person you're turning into. Friday morning brought an unexpected visitor. The receptionist smiled. Someone's here to see you. I walked into the lobby. Olivia stood near the window. She held a small paper bag. Probably coffee. Probably breakfast. Things she never remembered before. She turned as our eyes met. Hope flickered across her face. Then it happened again. The invisible connection. Her expression changed instantly. Every bit of color drained from her cheeks. Because she heard the one thought I never intended to share. I'm finally happy without her. The paper bag slipped from her hands. Neither of us reached to catch it. The paper bag hit the floor between us. A coffee rolled across the lobby. Neither of us moved to pick it up. Olivia stood frozen, her eyes fixed on me. She had heard the truth. Not a thought filled with anger. Not a wish for revenge. Just quiet happiness that no longer depended on her. That hurt more than any argument ever could. I didn't come to interrupt your work. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. I only wanted 5 minutes. Daniel stepped out of the hallway, noticed the tension, and stopped. You okay, Ethan? Yeah. His eyes moved to Olivia. I'll be in my office. He walked away without another question. The respect in that simple gesture stayed with me. He trusted me to handle my own life. Olivia bent down and picked up the paper bag. The coffee had spilled inside. I guess this wasn't the best idea. A weak smile appeared for a second before fading again. You remembered I skipped breakfast. I remember a lot of things now. There was something different about those words. Not pride. Regret. Heavy regret. I've been remembering everything I ignored. I stayed quiet. She deserved the chance to speak. Not because I owed her one. Because I no longer feared hearing the truth. My calendar still reminds me about meetings from last year. She laughed softly. Do you know what it doesn't remind me about? I waited. Your birthday. The smile disappeared. I forgot it twice. She swallowed hard. You pretended it didn't matter. It mattered. I know. Another long pause settled between us. I only learned that after hearing what you never told me. My heart skipped. She almost admitted the impossible. Almost. I've got to get back upstairs. The words came gently. She nodded. Understand. I turned toward the elevator. Behind me came one quiet sentence. I wish I had understood sooner. The doors closed before I answered. That evening Grace called. You free for dinner? Always. She picked a small restaurant near her apartment. The waiter hadn't even poured our drinks before she smiled. You're different. I hope that's good. It is. She leaned back. You're smiling with your eyes again. I laughed. I didn't know they stopped. They did. She stirred her tea. Someone came to see me yesterday. I already knew. Olivia. Grace nodded. She apologized. What did you tell her? The truth. I waited. I told her I never hated her. She reached across the table. I hated watching you disappear. Grace took a slow breath. She cried. That surprised me. Not because Olivia couldn't cry, because she almost never let anyone see it. She kept asking how long you'd been pretending everything was okay. What did you say? I told her she should have asked you years ago. Driving home, I kept replaying those words. She should have asked. Maybe that had always been our biggest failure. She assumed I would always stay. I assumed she would eventually notice. Neither of us chose honesty until everything broke. A few days later, Nathan stopped by my office. He carried 2 coffees. One for you. Thanks. He sat across from me. I owe you something. You don't owe me anything. I owe you the truth. His expression turned serious. You thought I was replacing you. I did. I never wanted that. I know. No. He shook his head. You don't. He rested both hands on the cup. Every time I stayed late with Olivia, it was because she refused to go home. I frowned. She buried herself in work. She told herself she was building a future. He sighed. She never realized she was missing the life waiting at home. He smiled sadly. You know how many times I told her to leave the office? No. Too many to count. She never listened. She does now. His eyes drifted toward the window. But now she's going home to an empty apartment. The old jealousy inside me quietly disappeared. Nathan had never stolen my place. Work had. Pride had. Fear had. Olivia had betrayed our relationship. Not with another man. With endless postponement. Tomorrow. Next week. After this project. After the next promotion. Love had always been scheduled for later. Later never came. Another month passed. Life settled into a rhythm that finally felt healthy. Then my phone rang. Dr. Amelia Ross. Would you be willing to come in? Is something wrong? I'd rather explain in person. The hospital felt strangely familiar. Olivia already sat inside the office. She looked healthier. The dark circles had faded. Dr. Ross placed a folder on the desk. Your recovery has gone very well. Olivia nodded. There's one interesting development. She opened the folder. Whatever unusual neurological symptoms you've experienced have almost completely disappeared. Olivia lowered her eyes. How long? We don't know. Days? Maybe weeks. The doctor's smile remained professional. Sometimes the brain heals in unexpected ways. We walked out together. Neither of us spoke until we reached the parking lot. So it's ending. Yes. She held her car keys without unlocking the door. I've been afraid of this. I frowned. Why? Her answer came slowly. Because. She stopped. The truth remained trapped behind her lips. She couldn't explain the connection. Not without sounding impossible. We met again several days later. This time by chance. A small art gallery downtown. She stood in front of a painting of an empty beach. I sold the apartment. The news caught me off guard. You did? She nodded. I packed everything myself. Her eyes grew distant. There was one picture hanging above the couch. I remembered it immediately. Our first vacation together. Wind blowing through her hair. My arm around her shoulders. The frame left a bright square on the wall after I took it down. She smiled sadly. It was the only part of the apartment that still looked alive. She reached in her bag. I brought something. It was the photo. The frame had been removed. Only the picture remained. I think this belongs to you. I accepted it carefully. You don't want it? I don't deserve to keep pretending that version of us still exists. Our fingers brushed for only a second. The connection returned. We both felt it. It was weaker, fainter, like hearing music from another room. She closed her eyes. One quiet tear slipped down her cheek. You're farther away. I stared at her. What? She quickly wiped her face. Nothing. The weeks passed. Each accidental meeting became quieter. Sometimes she reacted to thoughts that had already faded. Sometimes nothing happened at all. The strange bond was disappearing. And somehow, even without understanding it, I knew she was grieving its loss. The final moment came outside the hospital. She had one last follow-up appointment. The discharge papers rested in her hands. Healthy, recovered, ready to move on. We stood together beneath the evening sky. No arguments, no dramatic promises, Only two people who had loved each other at the wrong time. She searched my face, waiting, listening. The connection flickered one final time. A single thought crossed my mind. I hope one day you forgive yourself. Her eyes filled with tears, not because she wanted another chance, because she knew she would never hear my heart again. The invisible bridge between us quietly disappeared. 6 months can change a person. Not all at once. Not through one dramatic moment. The change came through ordinary mornings. Making my own coffee before work. Walking into an office where people were happy to see me. Going home without checking whether someone remembered I existed. The life I once begged for had quietly become my normal. And the strange part was this. It didn't happen because someone finally loved me the right way. It happened because I finally loved myself enough to stop accepting less. Daniel called me into the conference room one Friday afternoon. Several team members were already waiting. A presentation filled the screen. You've done excellent work these past few months. I smiled. Thank you. He folded his hands. We're opening another department. I listened carefully. I'd like you to lead it. The room stayed quiet while his words settled in. Me? You. He laughed softly. You don't apologize every 5 minutes anymore. A few people around the table smiled. You've learned to trust your decisions. He stepped closer. Leadership isn't about speaking the loudest. His hand rested on my shoulder. It's about helping people feel seen. A memory flashed through my mind. The old version of me had spent years hoping someone would notice him. Now I had the chance to make sure nobody around me felt invisible. I'd be honored. Grace insisted on celebrating. She reserved a table at the same restaurant where she had once asked if I was living or merely surviving. The answer looked very different now. She raised her glass. To my little brother. I laughed. You're only 3 years older. And much wiser. Debatable. She shook her head with a smile. No. Her eyes softened. You're finally smiling without pretending. The words hit deeper than she probably realized. Months ago, my smiles had hidden exhaustion. Now they came naturally. You saved me. She frowned. I didn't. You reminded me I deserved better. She reached across the table. You saved yourself. A few days later, Nathan stopped by my office. No tension. No misunderstandings. Just two men sharing coffee. You've made this place your own. I've tried. He looked around. Olivia resigned from our company. That surprised me. She did. She wanted a different life. He stirred his coffee. One with fewer meetings. A quiet laugh escaped me. That sounds like progress. It is. He looked directly at me. She talks about time differently now. How? She says people are more important than calendars. Neither of us spoke for a while. Then he smiled. I never wanted to be your rival. I know. You believe me now? Yes. The old jealousy had disappeared completely. It had never been about Nathan. It had always been about two people slowly losing each other without realizing it. That evening I walked beside the river. The sunset painted the water gold. My hand slipped into my jacket pocket. The old apartment key was still there. I had carried it for months. Not because I needed it, because some part of me hadn't been ready to let go. The metal felt cold against my palm. I held it above the water. 3 years of memories weighed far more than the key itself. I forgive you. The words floated away with the breeze. They weren't only meant for Olivia. They were also meant for me. My fingers opened. The key disappeared beneath the surface. Small circles spread across the river until nothing remained. The following morning, my phone buzzed. One message. Could we meet one last time? No pressure. No desperate promises. Just one request. I stared at the screen for several minutes. Then I typed a single word. Okay. We met in a quiet botanical garden. Spring flowers had replaced the cold winter branches. Olivia sat on a bench beneath a large oak tree. She stood when I approached. She looked healthier, calmer, not happier. There was a difference. Thank you for coming. You're welcome. Neither of us rushed to fill the silence. There was no invisible connection anymore. No thoughts crossing the space between us. Only words. Honest ones. She reached in her bag. I found something while packing. My old scarf. The blue one I thought I had lost years ago. You kept it. I forgot I had. A sad smile crossed her face. That sentence describes too much. I accepted the scarf. Thank you. She nodded, and she took a slow breath. I don't want another chance. The honesty surprised me. I came because I never thanked you. I waited. You loved me when I made it difficult. Her eyes glistened. You celebrated every success I had. You waited through every late night. You protected me from problems I didn't even notice. She lowered her head. I appreciated all of it only after it was gone. No excuses followed. No blaming work. No blaming stress. No blaming anyone else. Just responsibility. I hurt you. Yes. You didn't deserve that. No. She accepted both answers without arguing. That simple acceptance meant more than any dramatic apology. I still wish things had been different. So do I. A gentle breeze moved through the trees. Leaves drifted across the path between us. I've learned something. She brushed one leaf off the bench. Love isn't measured by how long someone waits. Her eyes met mine. It's measured by how well you make them feel while they're waiting. I smiled sadly. I think you've learned a lot. Too late. The words carried no self-pity, only truth. She stepped aside, giving me a clear path toward the garden exit. No attempts to stop me. No reaching for my hand. No promises. Just respect. Goodbye, Ethan. Goodbye, Olivia. I walked several steps before hearing her voice one last time. I hope you stay happy. I turned enough to answer. I hope you find peace. Then I kept walking. This time I didn't wonder if she was watching. I didn't need to. The weeks became months. Work continued to grow. Daniel trusted me with bigger projects. New employees joined the team. Whenever someone looked nervous on their first day, I remembered the man I used to be. I made sure to learn every name. I invited people to lunch. I listened. Nobody deserved to feel invisible. One evening, I cleaned old files from my phone. Hundreds of photos, old receipts, forgotten notes. Then I found it. The very last unread message from Olivia, sent months before we met in the garden. Can we talk? Back then, I hadn't been ready. Now I no longer needed to answer. My thumb rested on the screen. Delete. The message disappeared. Not because it no longer mattered, because it no longer controlled my heart. The next morning, the sun rose over the city. Golden light spilled across the sidewalks. My phone stayed silent inside my pocket. No missed calls. No unread messages. No invisible voices. Only my own thoughts. And they finally belonged to me. I walked toward the sunrise without looking back. The strange connection had vanished forever. Maybe it had never been meant to save our relationship. Maybe it existed only to reveal the truth we had both hidden for far too long. She learned that love cannot survive without attention. I learned that love should never cost my self-respect. That became my real victory. Not revenge. Not watching someone regret losing me. My greatest victory was becoming the kind of man who would never abandon himself again. For the first time in years, no one could hear my thoughts except me. And that was exactly how healing began.